So good afternoon. I'd like to welcome you to the psychology orientation session for the Faculty of Arts. So we have a little bit of time with you today. So I'm going to talk just briefly about some overview points about our program, and then we're going to open things up to questions at the end. And I would encourage you, if you have a question at any point in time, you can enter it into the question capability function on your screen. And we will have access to that. And we'll try to address the majority of questions at the end of the session. So before we begin, I'd like to introduce you to today's panelists that we have with us. Myself, my name is Deanna Singhal. I'm a faculty service officer for the Undergraduate Teaching and Learning Program in Psychology. So I am an instructor, and I do teach the first of two introductory psychology courses, Psych 104. And in addition to that, my background is brain behavior and cognitive science, and I do teach a third-year human neuropsychology class. In addition to that, I do a number of administrative duties within the department, and so I'll be able to answer some of your program-related questions today. Also with us, potentially, is Dr. Cor Beerfeldt, who is the Associate Chair Undergraduate of our program. In addition, with us today, we have Dr. Ben Dyson. So Ben Dyson is an associate professor in our department, and his current research interests surround the use of simple games in understanding decision-making at a behavioral and neural level. And he also teaches Psych 104, the basic psychological processes, as well as cognitive psychology, which is a second-year psychology course in our department. We also have with us three students, all current students. Erin Greenow is a third-year psychology honors student who's conducting research for her thesis in the area of social psychology. And in addition, Erin's already completed a bachelor's degree in design at the University of Alberta. With us as well is Kulsum Ahmed. Kulsum is a third-year Bachelor of Arts student completing a double major in psychology and sociology. And her goal is to also complete the certificate in applied social science research within her degree. Both Erin and Kulsum are current undergraduates, and joining us as well, we have one of our graduate students, Cassandra Wilkinson. And Cassandra is starting the third year of graduate school, working towards her PhD in psychology. And she previously completed a Bachelor of Science with a specialization in psychology here at the U of A, as well as the research certificate in psychology. So hopefully, amongst our panelists, we'll be able to address any questions that you might have. To tell you a little bit about our undergraduate program, we're a very popular program at the U of A and a very popular subject matter for students just looking to take an elective. We have approximately 2,500 students who enroll in Psych 104 each year. And our goal throughout our program is to expose students to a great wealth of knowledge and have them practice skills that we think are important for understanding human behavior and human nature. And this can involve a variety of areas such as brain and behavior, social, cultural psychology, and many, many more that we have within our department. We also emphasize to students and expose them to current research, so we stay up to date with respect to the field, and we also emphasize to our students the importance of scientific methods and its role in research, and to be critical evaluators in the interpretation of any piece of research or any information actually at all that they're exposed to, either via social media or on the news, to be critical of the methods and whether or not they did in fact follow scientific method. Psychology is a department that's shared amongst the Faculty of Arts and the Faculty of Science. Now, within both arts and science, students can obtain a major, a minor, or complete an honors degree. So a minor is going to be the fewest number of requirements. Major, now quite a few requirements in psychology. And the honors degree has that same base set of requirements, some additional course requirements, and the completion of an honors thesis, where a student will actually engage in research, collect data, and write up that thesis. We're often asked, at open house particularly, what's the difference between doing a Bachelor of Arts in Psychology or a Bachelor of Science in Psychology? And as mentioned on the previous slide, you can obtain a major, a minor, or an honors degree, whether you're doing a BA or a BSc. And we also let our students know that when it comes to looking at the two types of degrees, the psychology portion is shared amongst them, meaning that there are common requirements regardless of whether you're doing a BA or BSc. And those common requirements include both psychology arts courses and psychology science courses. So whether you do a BA or BSc, those psychology specific requirements are relatively the same. And so in the Faculty of Arts, you're looking at completing a Bachelor of Arts, and in consideration with that are all of the other types of requirements for that degree, in that you seem to be more interested in learning more about social sciences, humanities, language, so many other things that the Faculty of Arts has to offer. Now, within our program, there are opportunities to gain research experience and practical experience. Within our program, we have courses that are specific for research, individual study or research courses. These are courses where you can enroll for an entire term and work one-on-one with one of our faculty members as a supervisor and engage in components of research, whether it's analyzing data, writing up analyses, literature review, running experiments, things of that nature. And at the end of the term, you're given a grade for that course, and that course counts as a course credit towards your program completions. In the honors program now, you spend 2 years of your degree working directly on a research project, writing up a proposal, running the actual research analysis with the collected data that you have, and ultimately in the end, completing and writing up a thesis. Some students wish to volunteer or work in research labs. We might be somewhat limited currently in terms of what we can do in person, but these types of opportunities are typically in place. Some students also like to work towards completing what's called the research certificate in psychology. And so there are a set number of requirements and certain courses that if you complete all of them, it demonstrates that you've engaged in enough research and have developed skills related to research so that when you graduate on your diploma, you also receive this distinction. And this is a good one for individuals who are interested in applying onto professional schools or even just for any other professional job or career, demonstrating to employers and other areas where you may be applying for professional schools that you have particular types of research skills and research experience. And then for those who are looking for some practical experience in a particular field or a particular area, a particular type of job, they can enter into the Arts Work Experience Program, where they complete an internship, typically over a period of about 8 months, though the length can vary, but an individual gets to engage in a position that is a paid position for a period of time to gain that practical experience and explore that particular area to see if it's something that they are interested in. Now I'm going to share a link with you to what I call the Arts Orientation Handout. I'm going to place this link in the chat box here and send it along. This is a document. I have just a little small blow up here of it on the screen. It just gives you an overview of psychology in terms of some key reasons to study psychology, some of the types of courses that we offer, some of the areas that you might be interested in looking at in terms of careers. And in the middle section just shows you the major requirements for psychology within a Bachelor of Arts. So you can use this just as a reference. One point that I'd like to make to individuals who are considering psychology, either a minor, a major, or an honors, is that we do require all of our psychology students to complete STAT 151. So STAT 151 is an introduction to basic statistics, and we think that the skills developed in this course are key to a number of our courses throughout our program. Where we talk about research, we may be talking about things like statistical significance or effect size. And so STAT 151 gives you the appropriate background for those courses. So as you progress through the program, as I mentioned, Psycho 104 would be the very first course that you would take. and it therefore serves as a key prerequisite for a lot of the upper level courses. And so Stat 151 will also serve as a prerequisite for a number of upper level courses. So we strongly encourage students to take that very early in their degree so that they can have that completed and out of the way, not have to worry about not having prerequisites for later courses. And lastly, I just want to mention that our hope is that throughout our program, we are helping you develop into a skillful psychology student, as the American Psychological Association refers to this process of development throughout undergraduate programs. Within the Department of Psychology, there are going to be a lot of things that you will learn in terms of knowledge, but also practice in terms of skills. And these are important types of skills that are valued not only by professional schools to which you may apply, but also employers in many different career areas. So cognitive abilities and skills, the ability to critically analyze information, personal skills, time management, leadership skills, collaboration with other individuals, for example, communication, both in written and oral types of skills, as well as technological skills. So this year, I think we're all developing our skills in terms of this online environment and learning new platforms, but being able to problem solve through those and become more adept at using those particular types of technology. So that's just a basic overview of our program. What we would like to do now is I'm going to stop sharing my screen and we're going to go back to our panelists. And I'm going to ask now if you have any questions with respect to our program, that you could enter them into the Q&A box and we can address any questions, whether you have questions particular about our program, our courses, or whether you want to ask questions of our students directly with respect to their experiences. So the first question here says, what options are there for undergraduate research outside of the certificate and specific research courses? I'm an after degree student and don't have the time to explore many of those. Well, let's see here. I can start with some of that. Oh, Ben Dyson would like. Oh, Ben, please. You've mentioned you'd like to answer this question live. Would you like to address that?
Oh, I was just monitoring the chat. I was just getting rid of that question for you.
I see. Okay. All right. Sorry, the question, let me get back up to the question here. Let's scroll down. Right. So, and perhaps Cor, you can help me with this one. What I will mention is that with respect to research opportunities, so things are a little tricky right now, of course, with limitations with respect to in-person. You know, typically we would say if you had an opportunity to volunteer in a lab, that would be something that you could then schedule on your own time. So you're not in an internship position, you're not in a course position. I would strongly encourage you, if you are interested in a particular area of research, to check out our psychology homepage and look through our research tab that we have available. Within there, you'll see a number of different labs. And if there's one in particular that catches your eye or that you're interested in, there's usually a contact that you can reach out to, whether it's the faculty or the supervisor of that lab, and inquire about what sorts of possibilities there might be for that type of research in this particular situation. So certainly check out our homepage and our research tab, sort through that information, and don't be afraid to reach out and ask individuals whether there are any opportunities at the moment outside of enrolling in a typical course or completing an honors degree or doing an internship. Okay. Would anyone else like to add anything to that?
Well, perhaps that we offer a variety of what we call individual studies, mainly at the 300-400 level, but also at the 200 level, there's a research opportunity, and you can just find that online on our website. and enroll in one of those courses if you're interested in that. And so that gets you into a lab. And even though right now we don't have direct person-to-person contact, or at least very little of it, there's some exceptions to that. There's still research going on, because research can happen in any number of ways. So yeah, I encourage you to look at our website and look at the opportunities that are offered there.
Okay, great, thank you. The next question is class, or is the class going to be asynchronous or synchronous? So within our department, each instructor has had to make a decision about how it is that they're going to provide their course. So certainly these are remote delivery. So if something is asynchronous, it means that it is available to you to view, to work on, and to do at no set time. So the class isn't necessarily meeting at any given time. Synchronous now would mean students are meeting at class time with the instructor, or there is a test at a set time that students will have to go online to complete. And so what you may see is a number of courses that have a mix of these two components. Typically, we've been advised that when it comes to course content, so the big bulk of lecture material, for example, that a lot of that can be asynchronous and available to students online. And then I know there are a number of instructors who are choosing synchronous assessments. So online tests, for example, that are set at a very structured period of time, perhaps during regular class time. So there's going to be some variability. For your particular courses that you're registered in, all of this information should be available to you in the course outline, so in your syllabus. So it should be clearly stated what types of components are going to be used in your classroom and whether those are synchronous or asynchronous. So we're going to see a combination, most likely, of both. What will lab classes look like? Cor, would you like to answer this one?
Yeah, the answer is that it's hard to say, because it depends on the lab. As I just said, there are individual study classes that are basically lab classes, and we applied for exceptions to the no direct contact rule. So some of those will still be run in the lab, but it depends very much on the lab, and it depends very much on the kinds of measures that are in place, what is allowed and what can happen. So some of our traditional research will still happen in labs. Some of it will be taken online. And so the best thing to do is that when you're interested in doing a class like that, or to work in a lab, contact the main person who is responsible for the lab, or contact the instructor, and they will be able to tell you how they're going to run their labs this term. There's just a broad variety of different ways in which people can decide to do that.
Great, thank you. The next question I'm going to let one of our students answer. The question is, when do you think is the best time to purchase the psychology textbook? So in terms of purchasing a textbook before your course, do you have any advice for the students?
I can say something. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. So I think it really depends if you want to get used or new. If you want to get a used textbook, it's always good to start maybe even a couple weeks before classes start, and then you can really keep an eye on Kijiji or Facebook or anything like that and get a really good deal. If you're purchasing new, it's definitely okay to wait until like the first or second day of classes, get the syllabus. The professor might tell you like, oh, it's okay to have, the 6th edition or the 5th edition, and those little details can maybe help you out when you're purchasing. But definitely don't wait, because especially in Psych 104 and a lot of psych classes, you're going to have a lot of reading right off the bat. And if you get behind in the first couple of days, then it'll just be a little tricky to catch up again.
Great. Thank you, Erin. The next question is, what are the steps needed to become a clinical psychologist? And so this one is often a very common question, because I think when people typically think of taking psychology, they think of clinical psychology. So to become a clinical psychologist, typically across Canada, except for Alberta, you require a PhD in psychology. So it means you complete an undergrad degree, usually in the field of psychology, then a master's and a PhD. In Alberta, counseling psychology, it is possible to practice with a master's degree, but a typical clinical psychologist would usually require a PhD. So practicing anywhere outside of Alberta, there's the PhD requirement. So that's graduate work. And so Cassandra is working towards her PhD, though it's not in the area of clinical psychology. And that's the thing about psychology, is it's not just clinical. So Cassandra, maybe you could tell us a little bit about the type of work that you're doing. It's going to get you a PhD in psychology, but it's not in clinical.
Yeah, so my research currently focuses on stroke, and specifically a bleed in the brain, and what the consequences of that are on things like behavior. And we do this using animal models. So I'm currently doing studies looking at the course of injury to the brain and how we can mitigate that with potential therapies. And so after I get my PhD, I'm hoping to continue on in the academic stream doing research. So very different than the clinical side of things, but it just goes to show all the options that are out there in the psychology department. There's a really wide variety of research within just our department alone.
Mm-hmm. Thanks, Cassandra. And just to note that our psychology department does not have a graduate stream in clinical psychology. Through educational psychology, you can get a master's in counseling, which is a little bit different. Okay. Let me just get back up here. At the top, there was a question.
Hi, Diana. There was a question that kind of follows on from some of the things that we've been talking about from an anonymous attendee. Are there any tips for undergraduate students? I'm a little nervous, but super excited and can't wait to start. So I'm wondering whether any of the current students, if they could give one piece of advice to students who are starting, what that advice would be.
That's great. Thanks, Ben.
I would say don't be afraid to try new things, especially in your first year, to figure out what you like. Most of my friends in undergrad ended up with a different degree than they started with, so it's okay to change your mind as you're figuring things out and things like that. Also, you don't really know which path you're gonna, or I didn't know what path I was gonna end up on. I was too scared to pursue an honors degree because I thought it was gonna be too hard, but I ended up with essentially the equivalent experience in research because I ended up really liking research. So trying things like a research course is a great way to get your foot in the door and see if it's something you like. Because there's also a lot of people that end up going to grad school not knowing what they're getting into and not liking it. So trying to take advantage of these opportunities to try new things and figure out what you like and don't like in a safe environment would be my best advice.
Thanks. Kulsum or Erin, would you have anything you want to add to that?
I would say try to avoid buying new textbooks. It saves you a lot of money. When I was a new student in first year, no one told me that. And so I just went to the bookstore and spent a lot of money, and then I found out afterwards that that's an option. I mean, I guess it is common sense, but it didn't occur to me. So yeah, I would recommend that look online. Facebook has a lot of pages for textbook buy and sell that you can look into. People are posting on there constantly, and sometimes they'll even find you other people who are selling the book that you are looking for. So do use that. And I would also recommend taking advantage of orientations and other support options like this, because I didn't have access to these when I was an undergraduate. Like, this is kind of a learning opportunity for me as well. As I'm listening, I'm also learning a little bit more about the degree that I'm taking. So I would say really take advantage of it.
Thank you.
My piece of advice would be, when you're figuring out what classes to take and building your schedule, is look at the professors that are teaching the class, because sometimes the professor can have just as much to say about how great the class is going to be as actual material. Whether it's like how they sort of tend to do their assignments. Do they have a lot of assignments? Do they have a lot of tests? And does that professor work well with your particular learning style? I'm sure you've all heard of Rate My Prof. You can just Google Rate My Prof and you can put in literally any professor's name in there, and there'll be lots of students that will give you a little bit of advice about how that teacher teaches and how good their class is. And then that being said, when it comes to professors, like, don't be shy. They're there to help you. If you ever have any questions, send them an email or talk to them in class when, you know, classes are in person again. And that can be a really rewarding part of the whole university experience as well.
Great. Thank you. And I'll second that one. As an instructor, I'm never worried about a student emailing me with a question. I never feel that it's inconveniencing me in any way. So please, if you have any questions as you go along, feel free to reach out to your instructors. We understand, particularly now with the online environment, you may have more questions. So we're all here to make this work and to make it a successful year. Okay. I'm going to try to get through some more of these questions here. Someone has asked, when can we take the Arts Experience program? So I'm in my 3rd year, and I'm wondering if I should take it this year or for my 4th year. Typically, what I know of that program is that students usually take it after their 3rd year. That doesn't mean, there is I believe, a course credit requirement for that, which you can find online. But typically what I've seen is students take it after their 3rd year. So they take sort of that 1 year off of coursework and work, and then they come back and complete their 4th year. So that's typically what we see. Someone has asked, I'm currently enrolled in English 102 and 103 this year. Are they both requirements for me majoring in psych and arts? How many English courses are required for me? So psychology doesn't have any specifications with respect to which English courses you require. That is a Bachelor of Arts, a Faculty of Arts requirement. So that is something that I would ask a Faculty of Arts advisor. So we do not specifically monitor that. That is not a psychology specific requirement. What possible post-grad education might look like, and what are the recommended areas or careers? How helpful is psychology when it comes to law school, etc.? We have a number of students, at least in the past that I've seen, who come through psychology and go on to a variety of different professional schools, whether it's medicine, law. They go on to graduate school in different areas as well. As mentioned, psychology is a type of program where you're learning about human behavior, the factors that influence human behavior, and in any sort of position or professional school or career, these are skills and components that are going to be important for understanding any sort of situation or circumstance. And that's why our hope really is that through psychology, we can help you develop a skill set that can be applicable to so many different areas. So we do see students who come through our program. I wouldn't know the numbers, but I know I've personally myself have written a number of reference letters for a variety of different programs of students applying to medical school, law school, dentistry, occupational therapy, physical therapy, and so on. So we do see that as people having this degree and applying it to a number of different areas.
Could I also add to that?
Yes, please.
The Career Center on campus is a really good resource. They can do personalized career advising sessions for a fee if that's something you're interested in, but they also just have resources on their website, such as they have a page called What Can I Do With My Degree? So they break down by degree some of the different career options that are there and how you can learn more about them.
Thanks, Cassandra. That's great. I see a couple of questions here about transferring between a major in psychology offered in arts to a major in psychology offered in science. Is that possible? Is it difficult? It is possible, and I do know that some students have done that. In terms of the requirements for that, though, and how to go about that process is something that you would have to communicate to the Faculty of Science about, because there will be an application process where you will have to apply to get into the Faculty of Science. So again, that's something that psychology is not involved with in terms of admission or transfers. That's something that you would have to reach out to the Faculty of Science about with respect to their process.
Just in general, and you already said it, Deanna, the general requirements for a BA or a BSc, and those are the ones to look at if you want to make that transfer, because we try to keep the requirements of our programs very much the same as far as psychology is concerned, but the faculty requirements can be quite different. So that's indeed something to look into.
Thanks. Okay. I'm a first-year student, and I was wondering if it's possible to plan to do a research certificate in psych while doing honors and AWE, or I think artwork experience in the future. I'm aware it will take me longer than 4 years to do my BA if I decide to do this. Yes, so typically if you fulfill all of the requirements for the honors degree, basically you also have fulfilled the requirements for the research certificate. So yes, so it is possible to plan to do that. And as you mentioned, you can still do an arts work experience. Is there any, I guess I'm assuming an honors student could also take an extra year to do an arts work experience if they chose to?
Yeah, I believe they can, yeah.
Right, so I think that's something that you would just discuss in collaboration with the supervisor of your honors thesis project and have an agreement with them that you take that 1 year to do that. So I believe that that's possible as well. So, and you do recognize that, yes, with the arts work experience, you are adding time to your degree. So it would take you a little bit longer, but all of those things sound possible. Will the recording of this meeting be sent to us? If yes, how may we access it? So my understanding is, yes, this meeting is being recorded. I'm not clear of the specifics of where you're going to be able to find that, whether that's going to be housed within the Faculty of Arts or whether that's something that we have a link to our webpage. But I'm sure in the previous communications that you've been getting, there will be follow-up communications to you with respect to how it is that you will go about being able to access that information. So that will be coming. How are asynchronous classes going to benefit international students, as universities' course structure and assignments are going to be very different from the home country, right? And so this is something that instructors have been talking about and considering a great deal over this intersession. So with things being asynchronous, of course, then that can help eliminate any time difference. And so students, particularly who are many hours different than what we are here in Edmonton, doing things asynchronously can certainly help, because now the student doesn't have to worry about being present in a particular set class time. Again, each course and each instructor is going to be dealing with these things using their own strategies. And so they are going to plan to try to come up with ways of assessments that will still be possible to be met by people who may be in extreme other time zones. We've also been told as instructors, when we have components that are synchronous, to be willing and able at any given time to make accommodations for people who may be in a different country. So there's been a lot of problem solving that has been going on over this intersession addressing these issues. So I can guarantee you that for any course that you do enroll in, this has been brought to the instructor's attention, and the instructors are to have plans in place to accommodate those situations. I would also strongly encourage you to communicate with your instructor. So to email them as soon as possible, let them know of your situation, any time differences and where you're located, so that they can be aware that they have a student in their class that they may have to accommodate in some way. So please feel free to reach out to them. I encourage you to do so as soon as the term begins.
I see a question here, and that's in addition to what you just said, Diana, yep. About what does it mean when you're enrolled in a class and there's no class time. That would typically mean, or that would mean that it is an asynchronous class, which means that it cannot be required of you that you're available at any particular time. And that includes tests or assignments or midterms and that kind of stuff, except for the final exam. Final exams are typically scheduled by the registrar. But if it is asynchronous, it just means that assignments will be delivered in a way that do not require you to be available at a particular time slot.
Yes, thank you. Mm-hmm. Another question, on the calendar for courses to take for this program, it does not say you need to take any English courses, but everyone needs to take English. My question is, what English classes do I need to take? So again, those requirements that you're seeing are just the psychology specific requirements for the psychology major. All of the rest of the courses that are required for your Bachelor of Arts degree are monitored and set by the Faculty of Arts. So if you have a question about what English course you need to take for your arts degree, then again, I would address that question to the Faculty of Arts and to one of their advisors. So psychology is not setting those specifically. Those are specifically for the BA, and arts would be best able to answer that question for you. Okay. Next question, what are the steps to become a forensic psychologist or a profiler? So we do offer a special topics course in psychology and forensic psychology, but an undergraduate degree will not be enough to become a forensic psychologist in practice. Typically, like a clinical psychologist, forensic psychologists usually do require a PhD. I'm not super familiar with the area of forensic psychology in terms of the requirements, whether we have master's programs or PhD programs around the country in particular. I'm not sure if Cor or Ben, if you have any further information on that. But typically, to become a forensic psychologist, this is something that does require additional elements of education apart from just the undergraduate degree. So at least a master's and possibly PhD. Okay. Next question. I'm currently enrolled in the Faculty of Science, Psychology with Specialization, and my first year requires 6 junior math credits, and in my second year, Stat 151. I'm currently taking Math 134 and Stat 151 in my first year. Does this cover my STAR 6 junior math credits, or do I need to take 6 junior math credits as well as Stat 151 for a total of 9 credits? So Cora, this is particularly relevant to our calendar change that we pushed through this summer, right? So we recognize that in the specialization program, again, this is for Faculty of Science. So this is not for those students who are completing a BA or major in psychology within the arts program. We recognize, so when we previously made a change to the specialization calendar, we wanted to specify Stat 151. And what happened was that Stat 151 got added to the calendar on top of the STAR 6 math stats that was already there. And so this intercession, we pushed through a calendar change that is now effective as of this September, that for people in specialization, the Stat 151 counts as one of the STAR 6. So the only remaining then is a STAR 3 in math. Do I have that correct, Cor? Yeah. So to answer your question then, by taking your Math 134 and your Stat 151, that will cover the STAR 6 junior math, and there will not be another STAR 3 that you will be required to take.
Yes, that's right.
Great, thank you. Another question, I'm just mindful of time here, so we have about 5 more minutes remaining. Can you transfer to pharmacy from a BA, or does it have to be from BSc? This is going to be a question for pharmacy. I'm sorry, I don't know the answer to that. But pharmacy would be best able to answer that question for you in terms of what their requirements might be. Does the Department of Psychology, whoops, sorry, I lost that one. Let's see, a quick question. A friend of mine couldn't make it to this meeting, but they were planning to become a clinical psychologist therapist, and they're enrolled in the Faculty of Arts. Is master's enough to become one, or is it mainly recommended to get a PhD for both of their career choices? They're choosing one. Okay, so as I mentioned previously, clinical psychology for most provinces across Canada require a PhD for an individual to practice. Here in Alberta, with a master's, you are able to practice. I think we're the only province in Canada where that is allowed. We do not, within our particular program, offer a graduate stream in clinical psychology. Educational psychology here on campus does offer a master's in counseling, which is possible. Okay. Oh, the follow-up question. The follow-up there about math and stats, because when I asked my faculty about the math and stats, they said I need another math course to cover my requirements, so I'm a little confused now. So the calendar change is coming into effect, and so it may take a little bit of time before that could be in place. But we know for sure that it has been accepted and it has been passed, and so it will be coming up. So maybe give it a little bit of time. In September, if you continue to have any issues with respect to that or any further questions, I'm going to suggest that you communicate with me. What I'm going to do is put my email address here in the chat. So for anyone past this meeting, if you happen to come up with a question specific to psychology that you may want answered, that is my email address. You can always send me an email and I can try to answer your questions as best I can. All right, let's see, do we have any more questions in here? Scroll down. Oh, there are a couple more. Math 114 is a requirement for my degree, but it was not offered this term. Is Math 134 a good replacement? I'm sorry, you're going to have to ask math for that one. Again, that's not something that we oversee. So I would communicate with someone in math for that. Is a BA in psychology a good foundation for entering med school? As we've mentioned previously, some people do route through psychology and apply to other professional programs. Medicine is one of them, so it's not unusual for us to see that. And again, we're referring back to the skill set that we hope to develop within you that we, throughout our program, that we think can be useful for a variety of different types of professional programs. Is there a psycho-specific advisor? Yes. And so if you click on that link for the handout that I provided to you, in the upper right portion, there is the email for our advisor. And I'm going to just pull that up here again. And I will copy that link and paste it for you one more time before our meeting ends. So yes, there is a particular psychology advisor for art students. And you can certainly send them an email at any point in time. So again, this is the link to the document, and in the upper right-hand corner is our contact information, and that's where you'll find the specific arts advisor email. How can you enter the honors program for psychology? Okay, so honors program is something that students can apply to, or I believe they can even apply to it as early as after their first year. On our website, we will have the list of all the requirements necessary in order for students to be able to apply to the honors program. And then typically you begin the honors work more in depth with respect to thesis courses and seminar courses in that third year. So your third and fourth year are heavier years. But certainly check out our website and click on Undergraduate, and under Undergraduate is an honors tab, and there you'll find all of that pertinent information. Last question, if I reapply to a Bachelor of Science Psychology my second year, do I have to redo my first year? As far as psychology courses are concerned, they're on your transcript and they would apply to a Bachelor of Science as well. So you wouldn't have to redo any of your psychology courses. Okay. So with that, I think that is all of our questions, and that's perfect timing because 2:45 we've been told to end very abruptly at that period of time. So I would like to thank everyone for coming to our session to find out a little bit more about psychology. I encourage you to reach out to us if you have any further questions. And I would also like to thank all of our panelists for being here today to help monitor questions and to answer questions. All right, so best of luck to everyone this term. We hope to see you soon. Take care.